Hi everyone! Today we are going to create a simple brain for a snake from a classic game. Next, we will train a couple of snakes with slightly different methods and arrange a championship between them. Then I will show you the future opponent, and we will discuss how to optimize all that. Let's go! This is the snake's head, and the zone of its control is 5 cells around it in all directions. There are 4 output elements in the snake's brain that determine the direction in which the snake will move. In each cell, in the zone of the snake's control, there are 2 sensors. One reacts to an obstacle, the other one to food. Each sensor is connected to each output element, and each connection has its own weight. It is the weights from the triggered sensors that add up in the output elements and determine the direction of the snake's movement. Reminding that in each cell in the snake's control zone, there are 2 sensors. It would be difficult to display all the connections with weights, so I will use a different display layout. Here, it is clear what number the triggered sensor sends to each output element. Let's look at this example. An obstacle of 3 cells gets into the snake's control zone. This could be the body of the snake itself, another snake, or a wall. And on the right side, we see food. 4 sensors have been triggered. 3 because of an obstacle and the remaining 1 because of food. Let's add up the sensor data for the output elements left, up, right, down. We look at the output elements to find out where the value is higher. This is our direction. If the values are equal, we choose from them randomly. It's probably the simplest learning brain you can think of. So, this is what we have. The control zone is 11 by 11 cells. Minus the head, we get 120 cells. 240 sensors, 4 output elements, and 960 connections between them. Each connection has its own weight, and it is by changing these weights that learning is enabled. Now, let's move on to learning. This is a place for learning. On the left you can see the general field. To the right is what the snake sees. To the right in the bottom, there are output elements, they display the sum of the sensor data. Since all the weights are still equal to 0, the total sum is also 0. The blue color shows the direction where the snake wants to move. Since the value of the output elements is the same, the direction is chosen randomly. These are the weights of the obstacle sensors. The triggered sensors are highlighted in dark. These are the weights of the food sensors. The triggered sensor is highlighted in dark. We agree with the choice of the snake and take a step forward. As long as the choice of the snake and my choice are the same, no change in the weights occurs. Now the snake wants to go down, but I think that we should go to the left and pick up the food. Therefore, there will be a correction of the weights. If the direction chosen by the snake does not coincide with mine, the weights of all the triggered sensors influencing the snake's choice are reduced by 1. And the weights coinciding with my choice are increased by 1. The same happens with the obstacle sensors. So far, we shall agree with the snake. And here is where I think we need to go up towards the food. The sensor weights have been adjusted. Again, our opinions differ. We shall turn to the right, and the weights are adjusted. The snake wants to go to the right, but we are going down. There is a correction. Again, our choices do not coincide. I believe that we should go to the right for food. This will continue for a long time. Coaching experience has shown that one must follow the same strategy during the entire training process. When facing obstacles, I was trying to move clockwise, I threw myself at food when it was horizontal or vertical. So, this is a picture of weights that we get. I would like to note that using this learning method, the sum of all the weights displayed on the sensor is equal to 0. Now we are going to train the second snake, but in a different way. Everything is the same here, only me and the snake can choose several directions. Now the snake is showing that it is ready to go in any direction. I suggest going either to the left or up. Let's see how the weights are going to change. Where our choice did not match, the weights were corrected. Since the snake chose these directions, but I did not, the weights decreased by 1. Here, I agree with the snake. Here, I think that we should go to the left, and there is a correction of weights. The snake is ready to go in any direction, but I suggest to go only to the left. There is a decrease in weights in 3 directions on all the triggered sensors. The snake has bumped into the wall and wants to go through it. I suggest moving along the wall, either up or down. Let's see how the weights are going to change on the triggered sensors. Up and down, where I suggested, but not the snake, the weights increased by 1. To the left, where the snake suggested, but I did not, the weights decreased by 1. And so on. This learning method, unlike the previous one, is more tedious and takes more time, but I hope it will give better results. And now let's see what happens in the end. Last time, the sum of the numbers on each sensor was equal to 0, but this is not the case here, so it is easy to distinguish in what way the snake was trained. The championship starts. Two teams of clones are fighting, and they must collect as much food as possible in 400 moves. In the blue corner, there is a team of clones from the snake called Multi, trained using the second method. It is very stable. In the green corner, there is a team of clones from the snake named Ninja, trained using the first method. It is very straightforward, can score points quickly, yet it is suicidal. Let's go! The greens are starting to take the lead. Although they rarely make it to the end of the round, they often win. But not this time. This is an absolute victory for the Blues. The Greens started off sharply and are more than twice ahead of the Blues. Suddenly, one of the Blues dropped out, followed by the green one. It is unlikely that the Blues will have enough time to catch up on points. The Greens win. The score is 1-1. The Greens, as usual, are ahead. Note the difference in their movement. The Blues zigzag, while the Greens are more straightforward. The Greens managed to win the game even though only one of them reached the end. The score is 1-2 in favor of the Greens. This time the teams are very close to each other. Who will win? The Blues have won. The score becomes 2-2. The teams are very close. The Blues are clearly more concentrated. Here, the Greens began to drop out of the game. The score is 3-2. The Greens are determined and begin to move forward. One of the Greens is out. The Blue won. Again, the Green won. 2 against 1, but it is unlikely that the Blues will have enough time. The score becomes 3-3. The Blues have started off strong. The Greens are catching up. The score is 50-50. Who will win? The Blues did. The score is 4-3. The Greens are leading. Here, one of the Greens dropped out. Will the Blues take advantage of their number? They won't be able to. The score is 4-4. Here comes the last, decisive round. The Greens are far ahead. The Blues are slowly but truly catching up. One of the Greens is out. The victory goes to the Blues. Well, here is our winner. And he will have to face a serious opponent in the next part. Although there will also be a lot of training ahead, as the opponent is too serious. The opponent doesn't need a coach. He trains in the harsh conditions of real streets and improves his skills thanks to natural selection. Here, every mistake may cost a life, and only the fittest can pass on their genes to the next generation. Well, now let's talk about how all this can be optimized. When teaching, I always added or subtracted 1, but the further the object, the less influence it should have on the snake's choice. Therefore, it is worth introducing coefficients, depending on the distance. Due to symmetry, you can keep the weights within a small area of 6x6 cells and mirror it to other areas. This will allow you to conduct training 4 times quicker, since all these situations are identical. Yet I prefer the following option. We shall change the absolute coordinate system to the relative one. Now the sensors will turn along with the turn of the snake. we can leave only 3 output elements: forward, right, and left. This will bring down the chances of committing suicide by crushing into your own self. The training time will be reduced, as all these situations are identical. And if you apply symmetry as well and keep only half of the weights projected on the other half, the training can be reduced by up to 8 times. I didn't do this to keep the project simple and understandable. Let me remind you that in the next part we will train snakes with the help of natural selection. And please, support us on Patreon. The more support we get, the more opportunities we have for new experiments. That's all for now. Bye everyone.